In order to get her husband killed and get $100 billion fortune, a woman coaxed her husband to climb to the top of a mountain and dive down from the cliff, and with a few sweet words to convince him, the husband jumped off without thinking. The husband was never heard from again. The woman seemed to be worried and was calling out for him, but in fact she was very happy because the video she just took proved that her husband's death had nothing to do with her. But then she had to pay a heavy price for her cleverness, because the yacht was a top-of-the-range automatic gearbox, and for a woman who had learned to use a manual gearbox, she didn't know how to operate it. After a bit fumbling around, the woman starts to mess with the controls on the boat. Then, she touched a button and the yacht began to spin in a crazy circle. The malfunction really scared her, so she grabbed the edge of the yacht and tried to call for help, but found that this place was deserted, and no one was there to respond to her. She pulled out the key and managed to get the yacht to stop. And then she took out her cell phone and tried to make a call for help, but this place was too far away from the city, and there was no signal, so she could only huddle there waiting for a miracle. At the same time, the yacht was also drifting downstream from the lake. When the woman found out that the waterfall from afar was now getting close, she rushed to take her bags and clothes, and intended to jump into the water. She tried a few times, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it. Then she remembered that there was also a lifebuoy on the yacht, but because she threw it too hard, it flew 2 meters away from the boat. Watching the lifebuoy float further away made the woman more and more anxious. She could only stomp her feet. Left with no other choice, the woman could only go into the cabin and wait quietly for death to come. Luckily, the woman washed up on an isolated island and survived. When she woke up, the first thing she did was to turn on her cell phone to check her makeup. After making sure everything was fine, she gave her eyes a makeover, and then put on her favorite color of lipstick, before using her cell phone to look for a signal to call for help. But after half a day of using her phone, she still couldn't get a signal, so she drank up all of the champagne from her yacht, put on a beautiful long dress, wore her sparkling high heels, and then she walked towards her home. But after walking for a while, she saw a row of animal footprints on the ground. Then she looked up and saw a bear staring at her. Realizing the danger of the woman, turned her head and ran in the opposite direction, but she could not escape, and even fell to the ground. Just as the bear was about to pounce on the woman, she decisively took off her high heels and threw them over. The shoes, which smelled like feet, unexpectedly attracted the bear's attention, and the woman escaped with her life. But she was in the forest for a long time, and never found her way home. As the sun was setting, the woman felt the coldness of the place, and she picked up a branch and tried to make a fire, but she couldn't, and ended up with blisters on her hands. The woman had no other choice but to keep moving. Suddenly, the bushes in front of her start rustling, and a head even peeked out from it. This scared the woman, who immediately turned and ran, but because of the darkness, she could not see the road and tripped over a branch, falling directly into a coma. Immediately after, a gentle white fox appeared. It turned out to be the thing that the woman had just seen. The woman woke up again and was startled. She decided to hide in the fork of the tree and slept there for the whole night. The white fox had also been guarding her during this time. After learning that the fox was harmless, the woman slowly climbed down from the tree. At this time, the woman only felt thirsty and hungry, so she directly took out her face cream and squeezed it out before licking it with her tongue. The chemical flavor was so strong that she instantly spat it out. This also increased her desire to go home, but the woman had gotten lost. Covering her eyes, the woman first turned 3 times to the left and then 3 times to the right before finally pointing in the direction of the road she was going to go. But after taking a step, she tripped and fell onto the ground. Finally, with the help of the white fox, she found a source of water, as well as mushrooms that could fill up her hunger. She eagerly pulled out her bank card to chop the mushrooms, and even took out her perfume to flavor the food. After eating her fill, she lay directly on the ground and fell asleep. When she woke up again, she saw smoke rising from afar. Her woman's intuition told her that there must be people over there. This also made her instantly get up and immediately run towards the direction of the smoke, but arriving at the scene, she was instantly dumbfounded. It turned out that this was just a forest fire. Just as she was cursing her bad luck, suddenly a burnt-off tree started falling on her. Fortunately, she did not hurt her vitals and the tree had only hit her clothes, but the smoke still choked her and kept her from opening her eyes. Just as she was about to suffocate, the white fox suddenly reappeared at the side. It dug the dirt non-stop and looked at the woman. Finally, the woman understood its intention, so she followed its action and started digging as well. In less than a moment, the woman managed to climb out from under the tree to show her gratitude. She took the white fox in her arms and left the dangerous area to find a cave. She set up a fire to warm up and decided she would sleep. But in the middle of the night, she felt someone licking her feet, looked down and realized that the whole cave was full of rats. The woman did not care about the white fox and ran out of the cave the next day. The woman was woken up by the sound of speedboats and found that there were a couple of fishermen passing by the cave and immediately shouted for help. But due to the distance, she never attracted their attention. She had to use her skirt to keep waving in her hands. This time, she managed to attract the attention of the fishermen for a few months and finally got to eat some food. She cried and told the fishermen about her husband's accidental death and her own escape. The fishermen expressed their sympathy for her misery, and one of the younger brothers even pitied the frail woman. So with the permission of the elder brother, he pulled the woman into the forest with the intention of making her feel better. But just as the younger brother was about to undo his pants, he suddenly stopped. It turned out that the husband's sister arrived in time because her brother was lost. She had searched the nearby waters more than a dozen times. In a crisis, she managed to save the woman. Afterward, the woman explained to the sister that in order to express his love for her, the husband insisted on jumping from the cliff and accidentally died. In order to make his sister believe in her story, she also took out the video she shot in advance as proof, and the sister ended up believing in her lies. Not only did the sister help treat the wounds on the body, she even personally went down to the river to catch fish to help her catch up on nutrition. At the same time, the three fishermen also found out that their brother had been killed. In order to avenge the murder, they launched a thorough search. The second brother ended up finding the woman's bra and suspected that the woman was hiding nearby, so he pulled it down. The boss immediately realized that they had been ambushed. He knew that if he wanted to take his brother to the hospital to receive treatment, the woman would definitely escape, so he decisively ended his brother's life. On the other hand, the husband, sister and the woman had circled around the back of the island to steal the fisherman's speedboat to leave the place. But she never imagined that the woman did not know how to drive. Seeing that the fishermen were already chasing over, she had to push the speedboat into the lake and was caught back by the fishermen. And then a weird scene happened. With the sisters chanting, the wind began to blow wildly in the forest, and even the sky was raining soybean-sized drops of rain. The boss rushed forward and grabbed her by the neck to make her stop screaming. The next moment he was knocked to the ground by a gun from the third brother. Perhaps at this moment, the third brother was afraid of something. Immediately after, he was knocked unconscious by the woman who came back to her. The sister also deals with the awakened boss in time. And finally, the woman inherits her husband's billion-dollar fortune as she wishes, and at the same time develops the closest relationship with the husband's sister.